So let's talk about Mounce chapter 9. This is the unit on adjectives. How is an adjective different from a noun?
Modifies the noun.
Okay, so an adjective modifies a noun. That's a good start. Any other ways to distinguish an adjective from a noun?
A noun is a person, place, or thing.
Traditional grammar tells us a noun is a person, place, or thing.
Or idea.
Okay, or idea. Thank you, Kyle. Because I'm wondering about hope. Is hope a thing?
It's an idea.
No. Love is a feeling. So it's a person, place, thing, idea, or feeling.
Is it merely a person?
No.
I know a person named Hope.
Okay, hope's a person too, right? Okay, now let's try to think about a formal way of distinguishing an adjective from a noun. One of the significant differences is that nouns have how many genders?
3 in Greek.
No, like an individual noun in Greek.
Oh, one.
Yeah, has only one gender. A noun in Greek is marked for only one gender. So, what gender is exousia? Feminine. Good. What gender is logos? Masculine. Okay. Adjectives, on the other hand, are marked for all genders. That is to say that, you know how in your lexical list at the end of each chapter, you have an article accompanying the noun, right? And you need that article to know what? The one gender that it has. When you get to adjectives in your list of words, new vocab words, the adjective will not have an article because the adjective doesn't have just one gender. Adjectives modify nouns and therefore agree with the nouns they modify in gender, and so they have to play the chameleon and change their gender colors to match the noun. All right? So, let us for a moment take a look at your vocab list. Go to the back of the chapter, page 70, and you're going to notice that you have some lexical entries that have this kind of a thing. We'll start with agathos. All right, look at agathos. It means what? Good or useful. I have agathos. I have this eta, and then I have this omicron nu. Do you see an article here? No. What's the sigma here with the omicron telling you? This is the masculine form. Masculine, what number? Yes, masculine nominative singular. Remember, lexical forms are nominative singular, and then if it's a noun, it'll be one gender, but if it's an adjective, it'll have all the genders that it can possibly modify, right? So masculine for os, eta, that tells you it's feminine, omicron nu, neuter. Excellent. What declension patterns do these adjectives follow? Well, when they're masculine, they follow what? Second. You see that omicron stem, right? And then the case ending. Eta, the feminine, follows first declension. So this is second declension. That's first declension. So what's my case ending in the nominative feminine singular adjective?
Nothing.
Eta is not the case ending. Eta is the stem vowel.
There's nothing.
Yeah. The case ending is nothing, right? And in this neuter form, the stem vowel is omicron. It's what declension? Second. And the case ending in the nominative singular for neuter is? New. What's new? Nothing's new in this chapter. Right? All you're doing is taking the material. When it comes to forming the adjective, we're taking the material you've learned in chapters 5, 6, and 7, and you're just applying them to a new set of words. Okay? So in terms of forming the adjective, there's nothing new here. Doesn't that make you happy?
Yes.
Yes. We don't have to learn new forms. Yes.
How do you know that the eta is not the article?
Good. The article, the nominative feminine singular article always has what? Hey, rough breathing. Okay. So when you see this little hyphen or dash, what that's saying is that there is a noun stem that's just been omitted and is to be understood as coming from the first part of that. And he assumes that you know how to reconstruct what the feminine form would be. Agathe, agathon. Okay? All right. So the word for ending is the word termination. Okay? So how many terminations is this adjective susceptible of having? 3. Okay? So these are called 3 termination adjectives. If the adjective has a separate form for the masculine, feminine, and neuter genders, then it is a 3 termination adjective.
What is termination again?
Termination, an ending, right? A termination is an ending. If you've been terminated, you've been fired, right? Your job has come to its end. Hopefully, you've never experienced a termination. Although sometimes they can be blessed events, can't they?
Yeah.
Here. All right, now I bring that up because in a minute we're going to meet an adjective that doesn't have 3 terminations. But let's look at the second one. We have agapetos. Agapetos. Okay, so this means beloved. How do you know this isn't a noun?
Because it has the 3 terminations.
Yeah, it has three termination endings, 3 endings, and there's no what here? There's no article committing you to only one gender. All right? Now, which pattern are these 3 terminations going to follow? Well, if you look at those stem vowels,
2, 1, 2.
it's 2, 1, 2, right? Now look at the third one, and this is the special one here. It's the word aionios. Say that with me, aionios. Now, is there an article with this word? There's not, right? Well, you are given one bit of information here, and it's an omicron nu at the end. So what is this telling you? Okay. All right. The vowels you see are omicrons before these case endings. So that's a 2 and a 2 second declension, right? What's missing here? What are you expecting? You're expecting the feminine. Feminine's not here. In a situation like this, what's going on is that the first of the 2 is doing double duty for masculine and feminine. The second of the 2 covers the neuter. So we would call this, since there are only 2 possible endings, a 2 termination adjective. Okay? So in 2 termination adjectives, first termination, the first ending covers masculine, feminine. The second one, neuter. All right? So this will look a little bit funny to you. Let's just do an example here real quickly. Let's talk about a good word, or the good word. Halagos, agathos. Okay? The word, the good, is the good word. Notice that my masculine singular noun, logos, has agreeing with it a masculine singular form of the adjective, right? Okay, and then let's talk about the good time, the good hour. Hey hora. Hey, what? Aga. They. Right, you gotta use a feminine form. If this is nominative feminine singular, the adjective has to be nominative feminine singular. Hey hora, hey aga they. Alright, now let's talk about the eternal word. Halagos. Ha. What? Ionios. Good. And let's talk about the eternal hour. Like, not this class, but some other class you take at HBU. Right? Hey, hora, hey, what? What gender is this? Hey, hora? It's feminine. And the feminine form of this two-termination adjective is ionios. In other words, it's going to look exactly like the masculine form because the same form does double duty for both. Okay?
But the article's different.
The article's different. This is the thing about the article, by the way. Sometimes our nouns look feminine, and sometimes our nouns look masculine when they're not. Sometimes our adjectives look masculine when they're really feminine. But the article is always true. The article is your friend, your best friend. Never lose the article. It's the real deal. It's the true article. Okay? So, two termination adjectives, they will sometimes confuse you a little bit. You just have to remember, if it's a two termination adjective, that omicron's going to be there even if it's feminine, okay? Because omicron is in all the forms of this two termination adjective here. Okay, makes sense? All right, so we'll go back now to our lesson. I just wanted to make it clear that there is a real grammatical difference between nouns and adjectives, okay? They behave very similarly when it comes to how you form them, but they behave differently when it comes to how you join them with other words. Now, just a little bit of introduction to the concepts of article usage here. And this has to do with 3 words that Mounce introduces you to at the beginning of the chapter. And these are really, in English and in Greek, the same. They just show up grammatically in slightly different ways based on the language. If you ever learn Hebrew with me, you're going to hear all the same sort of stuff. There are basically 3 functions for adjectives. Okay, adjectives can function as an attribute, as a predicate, and what's that third word? As a substantive. Okay, and then we can make these adjectival in their forms: attributive, predicative, substantival. Okay, well, what's the difference between these things? Well, somebody tell us. What is the difference between an attributive adjective and a predicate adjective?
An attributive adjective tells you qualities about the noun. Whereas
Okay.
a predicate tells you what it is.
All right, but if I say John is happy, isn't that a quality?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you're not equating. Well, you wouldn't equate John with happy.
Is it the to be verb is stated or implied on the
Uh-huh.
adjective?
Yeah, that is true. And that's always the case with predicate adjectives, right? So we could just put here, there's always a copular structure, right? There's some copula, some verb to be that is explicit or implied. So the way I like to describe this, because I do think that it is a bit confusing, because I would tend to describe things the way it was just described. Well, and an attributive adjective is giving qualities of a noun, and a predicate, adjective is telling you something about, what it is, but usually it's a quality, right? So maybe to state it as succinctly and simply as possible, attributive adjectives tell you what kind of noun you're talking about. Okay? They're telling you what kind of noun you're talking about. Predicate adjectives tell you what the noun is. And when I say what the noun is, there I'm saying that there is some kind of a copula explicit or implied. So, just a couple of examples here. If I said something like, the boy is happy. Is this telling me what kind of boy I'm making an assertion about? Or is it telling me what the boy is? It's telling me what the boy is. So is happy a predicate or an attributive adjective? It's a predicate, right? All right, good. Now, here, I will save time and see if I can do that again. All right, so how about this? Let's not say the boy is happy, but the tall boy is happy. All right? What kind of adjective is tall here? Okay, yes, so this is attributive because this adjective is telling me what kind of boy we're talking about, right? Happy is still a predicate adjective because it's what I'm telling you the tall boy is. All right? So one of the things that can be a bit confusing when we talk about predicate adjectives and attributive adjectives is if we say, well, a predicate adjective occurs in a copular construction, well, look at my second sentence. This is a copular sentence, right? I have a copula. I have a verb of being. That doesn't mean that tall has to be a predicate adjective, right? Because an attributive adjective can occur modifying a noun that is the subject of a predicate kind of statement where I have a predicate adjective too. Okay? So attributive adjectives tell you what kind of noun you're dealing with, and predicate adjectives are telling you what that noun is in a copular construction. Now, a substantive, an adjective functioning as a substantive, is simply an adjective functioning like what? Like a noun. I like the example Mounce gives. Somewhere, I thought, oh no, here it is. It's 9.3. The good, the bad, and the ugly are all welcome here. What is good, bad, and ugly? Those are adjectives, right? Those are adjectives. But in that sentence, they are functioning like nouns. What do nouns typically do? What are the functions that a noun can have? They could be the subject of a sentence, right? And here they are. They could be the object of a sentence. They could be the object of a preposition. And adjectives can fill all of those function slots as well. Now, in Greek, we're going to see all of these sorts of adjectives. We know that we do them in English. We do them in Greek, we do them in Hebrew, and all sorts of other languages. We have specific sorts of restrictions on how we do it. And so we'll look at how Greek does that in just a little bit. Let's go ahead and just feast our eyes on the form of the at least 2, 1, 2 sorts of adjectives, like agathos. And for fun, we will read this out loud and I'll have you repeat after me. Okay, so we'll do the masculine forms first. Ready? Agathos, agathu, agatho, agathon, agathoi, agathon, agathois, agathus. Feminine forms: agathe, agathase, agathe, agathane, agathai, agathon, agathais, agathos. And then agathon, agathu, agatho, agathon, agatha, agathon, agathois, agatha. Did you notice that the noun rules that you've been learning apply even here? The neuter forms are the nominative and accusative singular forms identical. Agathon, agathon. They are, right? The nominative plural and accusative plural forms in the neuter. They're the same, aren't they? Agatha, agatha. And then notice that in the genitive and dative, the masculine and neuter forms are what? They are the same. Agathu, agathu, agatho, agatho. And on the genitive and dative plural, the same. Agathon, agathon, agathois, agathois. Okay? So, you already know this stuff. That's the good news. All right. Okay, so we continue our discussion of the adjectives here. Let's start looking at the actual Greek forms of the adjective when they are attributive, substantival, and predicate uses. So Mounce 9.8 is where he talks about attributive. So let's take a look there. He gives us an example. Ha agathos logos. Estin, which means the good word is something. Okay, and you could make up any way to end that particular sentence. And the point here is to notice that this use of the adjective right here, agathos, that is what use? It's attributive use, and because it's telling me what kind of word we're dealing with here, right? What kind of word? The good word is here. The good word is in the scriptures, or some such thing. Now, notice that whenever an attributive adjective occurs in Greek, it is going to be accompanied by a noun. And it is going to agree with that noun in 3 ways: case, gender, number. What are my case possibilities? Rattle them off. Nominative, genitive, dative, accusative. Okay, gender possibilities. Masculine, feminine, neuter. Good. Number possibilities. Singular, plural. Okay? So look at logos. I could identify logos as case, gender, and number, can't I? What does that sigma tell me? Nominative, singular, masculine. Notice that my attributive adjective has to agree with it, right? And it is nominative, singular, and masculine. This is a feature of all attributive adjectives. They must agree with the nouns they modify in case, gender, and number. All right? Now, if I want to say something like the good woman, what would agathos do? What would I have to do here at the end? Yeah, I have to change the os to eta. Agathe, right? Agathe. Good. If I wanted to say the good work, what would agathos become with ergon? Agathon. Exactly. All right. Good. Now, the examples we're using, of course, are of the attributive adjective with a noun that happens to be the subject. Doesn't have to be that way, though. I could say something like genosko. Does anybody know what genosko means? I know. Genosko. I know. And then I can just get rid of the astin here and stop my sentence here. I know the good word. I know the good word. Agathos is still going to be attributive here, but can I leave it in the nominative case? What case does the good word have to be if it's the direct object of gnosko? It's got to be accusative. So, logos will be what? Logon. Good. The article ha will have to become what? Ton. And then what happens to agathos? That's right. It becomes agathon. So you see how this works. What is going to determine the case gender number of the article? The noun's case number and gender. And likewise, what's going to determine the case gender number of your attributive adjective? The noun. And that is why the noun is often referred to as the head. Okay? So the noun that's being modified is referred to as the head. What's a head do? Head leads, right?
Everything else is an extension.
Everything else is an extension of the head, the big head, right? But the fact of the matter is, the head determines so much. Well, in grammar, phrases have heads. So a noun phrase, okay, a noun phrase is a phrase where the noun is the head. And the noun will dictate a lot of other things about the phrase. In this case, the whole expression, ton, agathon, logon, is a noun phrase where the most important grammatical word is the noun, and that noun's case gender number determines the case gender number of the other modifying elements related to the noun. Okay? So, what about predicate uses of the adjective? Let's use the same set of words so that we don't cloud anything. But if I wanted to say something like, oh, by the way, so let's just jot this down. So the good word, right? That was how we're just...
You have to have the article. You have to have. I mean, I got confused because he talks about that, and that's really confusing.
We'll get to it in a minute. I'm just wanting to give you some examples. Notice that what's important for us to note is that if it's an attributive adjective, it will always accompany a noun. And it will agree with the noun in 3 ways. Okay? Now, so that's the attributive. What about predicate uses? Remember, we have a copula, some verb of being that is explicit or understood or implied. Okay? And remember, predicate adjectives are telling us what some noun, some subject noun is. So, as an example, I could do something like this. Halagos, agathos, and put my period right there. All right. How might I translate this? Good. The word is good. And in this case, the copula is not explicit, right? It's missing here. It is going to need to be supplied in your English translation. Now, I jokingly like to refer to this as me, Tarzan, and you, Jane grammar. Okay? Many languages can drop the copula and still have a grammatical sentence. Russian does this all the time. Russian doesn't use a present tense form of the verb to be. So, if you want to say, I am your husband in Russian, you say, I your husband. I your husband. Okay? Do you have a husband? What's that?
I have a question. Like, we learned Esten as being he, she, it is.
Uh-huh.
Would that only be used like if it's referring to a person? Or can that be used?
Well, it can be the subject of a stin as well, right? And any substantival use of an adjective could be the subject of a stin. Anything that functions as a noun and can be a subject could be the subject of a stin. Okay? Now let me just modify this one tiny little bit. I could also say halagos estin, right? Agathos. Sorry for my lousy writing there. Okay, here that is going to be translated the same way. Here the copula is explicit. Okay, either way, notice what case is the noun that I'm making the assertion about. It's nominative. Why is it nominative?
Has to be the subject of it.
Because it's the subject of the verb is, whether it's explicit or implied. Okay? What case is agathos? It's also nominative, right? Why is it nominative?
Because it follows the noun in case, gender, and number.
That's if it's attributive, but we're dealing with predicate uses of the adjective here. Because it's a predicate nominative. Remember how we talked about anytime you have a copula or a linking verb, like to be, the subject is always nominative, and then the predicate nominative or predicate adjective is always nominative. Okay? So here's one of the significant differences between an attributive adjective and a predicate adjective. The attributive adjective can be which cases? Any and all. Predicate adjectives can only be in one case. Which case? The nominative case. For now. We'll get to some situations where once you learn a little more grammar, you'll still see that the case of the predicate adjective has to match the case of the subject. All right? And so for now, the only case we know it can be is nominative. It's just when we start talking about infinitives, right? We'll get to that, and that's like at the end of second semester. So put that out of your mind. All right. If I have a sentence that uses any kind of verb besides a copular verb, like be, become, I can't have a predicate adjective. It's impossible to have a predicate adjective without a copular kind of verb. All right? So if my verb is ate, could I have a predicate adjective? The happy boy ate a sloppy hot dog. Happy, what kind of adjective is that? Attributive, that's a kind of boy, right? Sloppy hot dog. Sloppy is attributive. It's what kind of hot dog, right? Am I making assertion about what anything is there? No. I'm just telling you about different kinds of things and what they did to what, right? But not what they are, right? My assertion about what something is or what some things are copular constructions, okay? And I can only have predicate adjectives and those kind. Now, we'll get to some of these confusing little things in just a minute, but again, just walking through how Greek uses these types of constructions and how they can be different from one another. when I have a substantival use of the adjective in Greek, as in English, what's the critical thing here? The substantival adjective is like an attributive adjective. Okay, so let me just put it this way. It equals an attributive adjective without the noun. Okay? Attributive adjectives always accompany a noun and agree with it in case, gender, and number, right? Substantive or substantival adjectives are basically an attributive adjective without the noun. So let's take our attributive adjective up here. We had ton, agathon, logon, right? And we used gnosko as our example. Let's redo that here. What's gnosko mean? So I know. Good. And then I have ton, agathon, logon. This is what kind of an adjective? It's attributive, right? And that should be logon, not logos. So, what case is all this? Ton, agathon, logon?
Accusative.
It's accusative, good, because it's the direct objective I know, right? All right, so this is truly an attributive adjective here, right? But we've said that a substantival adjective is basically an attributive adjective without the noun. So what can I do? I can chop off the noun here, right? And I could end my sentence with gnosko ton agathon. Now what would that mean? How would I translate that in English? I know the good, nothing. What do I do with that?
Is implied or related to something.
Yes.
Before.
There is some implied noun that this is an attribute of, where that noun is simply not stated. So in English, I am most of the time, although not always, I am most of the time going to need to supply some kind of an English word to fill out that idea. So, what could I say? I know the good. Now look at the gender and number of that noun that's functioning like the direct that adjective that's functioning like the direct object. What gender and number is that? Ton, agathon.
Masculine.
Yeah, so this is accusative, singular, masculine, right? So it's a masculine singular adjective functioning as a noun. So what might I add as my extra little filler word to make good English sense? I know the good man. I know the good one, right? Could be I know the good person. And this all depends on contextually what that adjective is standing for. If we're talking about books, then it might be I know the good one, that is I know the good book, right? If it's the word, then I know the good one, that is I know the good word. Okay? I wouldn't translate it if I'm talking about the word and there's a bad word over here and a good word over here, and Johnny, which kind of words would what kind of word would you like to say? I want to say a good. A good what? A good one, right? Or a good word. But we wouldn't stop with good if we're talking about a single thing, right? In English, we tend to omit that extra noun if we're talking about something like plural adjectives functioning, or adjectives functioning for plural things, substantival adjectives, right? So like the good, the bad, and the ugly. What would we say? The good, the bad, and the ugly are here, right? But
Wouldn't those words be singular or plural? If it was in
well, even if we were used to use one of them, would you say the good is here or the good are here? Which one sounds more natural to you? The good are, right? The righteous are blessed. I wouldn't say the righteous is blessed, would I? I would want to say the righteous one, or the righteous man, or the righteous woman, right? And in Greek, I could use a single adjective functioning as a noun there. That's a substantival use. So, bottom line, what will determine, goodness gracious, what will determine the case, gender, and number of your substantival adjective? The function will determine the case, right? So case is based on function in the sentence, right? In this case, pardon the pun, it's the direct object of gnosko. That's why it's what case? Accusative. Okay? The gender and number is based on what? What it stands for. What noun that we've omitted that the substantival adjective stands for. Because that's what it's doing, right? It's standing for a noun. And so in many ways it's like a pronoun. How do you choose which pronoun you use? Well, you think about the noun that you're replacing the pronoun with, right? So if I'm talking about a woman, I'll say she. If I'm talking about two women, I use they, right? If I'm talking about one man, my pronoun is he. And if I'm talking about something neuter, I use it, right? Okay. When do I use him? Well, if I'm talking about a man and it's the object of some verb or preposition, right? So the gender and number is determined by the noun that the adjective replaces. And that means that substantival adjectives can be how many cases? Any and all, right? So the only restriction on case is which one? The predicate use. Okay, because I have to have a copular construction. And so I'm going to have a nominative adjective. Okay, so big clue, big hint here. If you ever have an adjective that's not nominative, can't it be a predicate adjective? Nope. Nope. At least not yet.
And then if there's a noun, then it has to be attributed.
If there's a noun, that's right, it has to be attributive. If there's a noun that it agrees with in case, gender, number. All right. Now, let's real quickly look at the question of.
You just said if there's a noun that it agrees with in case, gender, or number, it has to be attributive.
Then it's attributive, yes.
And
Why
it's not
isn't it
nominative.
predicated? Because those always agree in case those agree.
Okay, yes, but in terms of that predicate structure, when I say that, and I think this is what Kyle means as well, that the the noun and the adjective are paired. They have to go together. Like I could have a predicate use of the adjective separated from the noun with a bunch of prepositional phrases or other things in between them, right? So I'm thinking in terms of if I have an attributive adjective, it's going to accompany a noun side by side with it and agree with it in case, gender, and number. Okay?
Uh-huh.
If they both happen to be nominative, then I've got to ask some more questions because I could have a predicate structure too.
Yeah. that's
Right,
what
where
I'm
they're
saying.
close together.
It's the example, they're right next to each other.
Right. Let's talk about that, okay? All right. When a noun or an adjective has an article in front of it, what's the term that Mounce uses for this? Articular. Okay. So nouns and adjectives can be articular, that is, accompanied by an article. And if they are lacking the article, the term is anarthrous. Have you ever heard the term anhydrous? It's a science term. What does anhydrous mean?
Without water.
Without water. So the a prefix, as an atheist, right, means not a theist. The a prefix is what's called a privative prefix. It means not. But if I'm attaching a to a word that starts with a vowel or something, then I'm gonna stick that an there. So anarthrous is not article. Okay, no article, lacking the article. Okay, it would have been easier to say, non-articular, or maybe anarticular. I don't know why there's two different words here. Either way, article placement is really going to help us with disambiguating some situations that are not so clear. So let's talk about this now. When we have attributive adjectives, there are a couple of, so here we'll do attributive. And what I want to indicate here is when we have attributive adjectives and they are definite, okay? If the adjective is modifying a definite noun, then we have some attributive positions. We have first and we have second attributive position. Now position means placement, right? So what we're dealing with here is placement issues. I could say, as we've been doing, ha logos, excuse me, ha agathos, logos. Okay, I have article first. Agathos, is that a noun or an adjective? It's an adjective. Logos is a noun, right? Okay, so when this is called the first attributive position, what it's saying is that the adjective is an attributive adjective, and it comes first in relation to what? The noun. Okay, this is what that first and second ordinal number is doing. It's giving you the placement order. Okay, between the adjective and the noun, which one comes first? The attributive adjective. Okay, now over here I could put the word logos first. Ha logos, ha agathos. Okay, now logos is a noun, agathos is an adjective. Which one came first here? The noun. So the adjective is second, right? And that's why this is called the second attributive position. In both cases, what precedes the adjective? The article does. Okay? Ha agathos, logos, ha logos, ha agathos. So in both cases, when the noun is definite, it doesn't matter which attributive position I'm using here, the adjective will be what? Articular or anarthrous? Which is it? The adjective will be articular, right? That is to say, the adjective will have the article right before it. All right? Since I'm dealing, when I'm dealing with substantival adjectives, I'm really dealing with an attributive adjective that's just omitted the noun. Same will be true here, right? My adjective is basically an attributive adjective with an article in front of it. It is possible to have an attributive adjective without an article. Let me give you an example here. Gnosko is my verb. I know. Gnosko. Agathon. How would you translate that?
I know good.
I know a good what? What gender is this? Masculine singular. It's accusative, masculine singular. So I know a good man. I know a good one. That happens to be a masculine one. All right? On the other hand, if I had Gnosko agathane, it would be I know a good woman, or I know a good one who is feminine. Could I have Gnosko tain agathane? And how would I translate that? I know the good woman, or the good feminine one, right? Okay, so depending on whether this substantival use of the adjective, whatever that stands for, depending on whether it's definite or not, it could be articular or not. All right? All right. Let's see. If I have an indefinite noun, how's that going to look? Well, I could have something like logos agathos. Okay, so a word, agathos, a good. What would that mean? Yeah, a good word, right? That's one way to translate that. I could have agathos, logos. I could have it in first attributive position, right? Agathos, logos. That would still be translated as a good word, right? Okay, so by the way, I'm translating it this way because I'm assuming here that we're talking about attributive adjectives, okay? I just want you to see how they can occur. So if it's definite noun, the article will precede the adjective, the attributive adjective, either way. If the noun is not definite, then there's no article to play with, right? Then they're just going to be side by side, which is where attributive adjectives go, right? They go beside the noun that they modify and agree with in case, gender, and number. All right. Now, we do have some situations here with predicate adjectives. All right? So, with predicate adjectives, if the subject noun is definite, if the subject noun is definite, then we're going to be able to help ourselves here. Okay? Let's use this example here. Logos agathos. Okay. That is a full sentence. Logos agathos. Is the noun definite? Logos. It is. This is the adjective, right? Agathos. If this were an attributive adjective, what would have to be true about it? Well, it'd have to accompany a noun. It would have to agree with it in case, gender, or number, right? Do we have that situation here?
Yes.
We do, right? But when it comes to attributive adjectives, there was one thing that we also learned. If the noun is definite, what is true of the adjective? It will also be definite by way of an article, right? There will always be an article in front of it. So here's my adjective, agathos. The noun is definite. Is the adjective articulate? Is there an article in front of the adjective? Look at agathos. Do you see an article? No, it is an arthrous. There's no article. So this can't be an attributive adjective. it must be a predicate adjective. Okay? So, to put it another way, when the subject noun is definite, it's going to have its article. But no matter where this one goes, it will not have the article in front of it. Right? With our attributive adjective, it didn't matter whether the adjective was before the noun or after the noun. The adjective's always definite with an article. It's got an article there. It's articular. Okay. So if I swap this position and did agathos halagos, period. This is an adjective, right? Here's a noun. It's side by side. It agrees in case, gender, or number. But is the noun definite? Yeah. Then if this is an attributive adjective, it also needs to have the article in front of it. But it doesn't, does it? So this can't be the attributive use of the adjective. It's got to be a predicate use. How am I going to translate both of these? They'll both be translated the same way. The word is good. If you keep the word order of the second one, good is the word, but that's saying the same thing, isn't it?
So if the noun is definite and the adjective is not, it is predicate?
If the noun is definite, if you know the noun is already definite, and then you have an adjective that doesn't have the article in front of it, okay, it's going to be predicate under one other condition, which you already know. What case must predicate adjectives always be in? It's got to be nominative, right? It's got to be nominative. All right. Now, if the subject noun is indefinite, if it's not a definite noun, guess what? It is utterly and totally ambiguous. Okay? So I could have agathos, logos, or logos, agathos. Okay? The noun's not definite here. The noun's not definite here. My predicate use of the adjective could go either place, by the way, right? Notice it came after the definite noun here. Second one, it came before the definite noun. Same here, okay? I could translate both of these as a word is good, okay? Not the word is good because the subject noun is not definite, okay? But that's ambiguous between what we saw up here, right? Logos, agathos, and agathos logos could also be a good word. So when my noun is not definite and it's nominative case, I have a little bit of a puzzle, but usually my context is going to make it abundantly clear. How so? If my sentence ends right here and there's nothing else, there's really nothing else it could be but a predicate adjective, because I have to make sense of this as a sentence, don't I? There's no verb. So what do I do when there's no verb? I supply one. What's the only verb I should supply here? The verb to be, right? On the other hand, if I had an indefinite noun that had an attributive adjective, like a good word, there's going to be more to my sentence, right? A good word heals the bones. A good word brings a smile to sad people, right? And of course, if these were in the accusative case, it could only be one thing, right? If I had logon agathon, it would be the object of some verb. I know a good word, right? It couldn't be a predicate adjective because predicate adjectives are always what case? Nominative. So, hopefully that helps you a little bit.